Morning.
Bonjour, everybody. Welcome to the Jezebelle Trinity podcast. It is September 2nd, 2025, and today is, what is today? Tuesday. We're going live a little bit early. We have some obligations that we need to take care of later, so we decided to try this now. And welcome, Miigwech, for joining us. I'm your host, Trinity, and I have Faye here with us today, the co-host. Say hi, Faye.
Ani nanenduwe mo ni dog.
So today we kind of been talking, and we would like to share how important the grieving process is in healing and recovery. And what do you say about that, Faye?
Well, mental health matters for sure. Grieving can be very difficult on your mental health.
And I've noticed that, like, for any kind of loss, there's a grieving process that we all go through.
But is it a healthy grieving process, or is it harmful to yourself or others around you?
Yep. So maybe if it's acknowledged that you're grieving, like, are you aware that you are grieving or need to grieve, or have you grieved?
I know, like, personally, me, there was somebody in my life that I lost them, and 30 years later, and realized that I haven't even, I didn't even know, I don't even know how to grieve for them, and because I haven't even, been able to do that for myself for that many years. So, in order to further heal, I need to touch that process.
Yeah. And that means, like, feeling those feelings.
Yep.
And
you gotta feel it to heal it.
Yep, exactly. And not avoid it, stuffing it down. Because I've noticed so, like, you notice you've been carrying that around, carrying it with you, and since you said that you haven't processed it or acknowledged it, does it come out in other ways?
Yeah, in ways that before, for a long time, just told myself that I was okay. That happened a long time ago, but the reality of it is, it made a lot of things very difficult and challenging because I still held on to those things, and I still had that, like, a backpack, so to say, carrying it around, and it just, it gets real heavy.
Does it make it harder for things in the present, like?
It does, because it does sometimes, and not for me, but I know for some people that it could actually be debilitating. If you don't grieve, it can lead to other issues such as depression, severe depression, where people don't want to come out of their home, or even their bedroom sometimes. It gets so bad. And the one thing I've come to realize in our community is that we are in Lac de Flambeau, that we are a community that's grief stricken, and we've been for a long time. And I don't know I'm sure there's people that realize it, but I think for the majority, we don't even realize how much grief we as a community have experienced, and all these losses that come so close together. Like we're all grieving whether we want to say it or not. Like we might not be going through the process, but we're all carrying some heavy grief in our hearts in one way or another.
And
There's not a lot of support places that places for people to go with support. I know one of the challenges that we face, and it's not just with the grief, but with groups across the board, is that people have a hard time going who aren't court ordered or who aren't mandated to be there. These people have a hard time going because of confidentiality. So we're hoping to create a network where we can have small groups, grief groups, maybe other groups in the near future. But we'd like to be able to have a place for people to let that grief out, or to deal with that grief and be able to talk about it, and we're hoping it can be totally anonymous, where a person wants to join the group and just, talk about what's going on in their day or anything, because sometimes those light things can mean a lot and be heavy for that person, even though we don't see it like that.
and then you were saying about how it's not acknowledged or supported, the grieving process. And traditionally in our culture, when we do lose somebody, isn't it true that we usually give a year of mourning, a year to grieve?
Um, I'm not quite so sure about like that. I mean, there's a year where the family, they kind of give up everything just so that they can get that strength back, because those 4 days of that takes a lot out of a person right there, and the loss itself is another weight on the heart. So kind of given that time to rebuild yourself and bring yourself back up and get that strength is what I gathered from it. But um, I was recently told by somebody who is going through the grieving process that they said it takes 4 years to fully get into that process of grieving, and I'll take their word for it. Um, considering their loss and their grief, they're more experienced in that area than I am, and um, they're more in touch with that process than I am. Let's say it that way. I I um I haven't had to um I haven't had that kind of grief in my life. And that's the other thing, is that it's very hard to help people who are experiencing that, that really heavy level of grief. We have a lot of parents who've lost children, and what I've been taught is it's very hard to help people unless you've experienced that. So to me, that's why I feel this group, these groups would be important, is because these people who've experienced that grief together, they're better able to help each other than we are as individuals who have not experienced those things or that type of grief.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know, it was somewhere in my healing journey that I was told, I don't know if it was from somewhere, but a year of a grieving process, because I was thinking of um acknowledging that in the business I'm creating is just kind of, allowing a year to grieve after losing somebody, and just giving that person time to, if they needed a day to take off because they're having a rough day, or but to acknowledge that, because in the mainstream society, it's like, somebody passes and you're just supposed to come back to work and not acknowledge that pain, and that falls in back into, you're supposed to be tough and keep moving
I
forward, act like nothing happened, when that's a big loss. Should I grieve after losing a job? And I don't, it's not that I choose to grieve, but I resigned for a job, and my body and my mind slow down, and it's like, what the heck's going on? And for 2 days I'm like in a slow motion, wondering what's going on. Then it's like I have to reflect and remember that it's a loss, any kind of loss, and that's 2 days. I can't imagine what, the grief of losing a child would be. But if you're
there really can't be a time limit on grieving either, and I understand what you're saying, and I think it's more or less the society we live in, because we live in such a corporate world where everything is hurry up and make that money, and that's where we lose that understanding, and we're losing that humanness in us, because everything is hurry up and let's do it. And we need to really slow down and take care of our mental health. Number one, because without your mental health, your mind can't work properly and tell your body how to move. So that's how we kind of get stuck in those deep depression.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's a time limit on it. I'm just saying, like, it's
Yep.
a year to kind of ease into it and acknowledge what you need to do to take care of yourself, to love yourself, to let, let,
For sure.
yeah, to build up some resilience and persevere. But it's 3:55. So if you are interested in an online free confidential grief group, email me at contact@savagetruthllc.com, and we have a platform that we can, if you're worried about confidentiality or being anonymous, you can be anonymous. Email me. We got a platform that we'd like to work with you on. And would you like anything else to add before we close, Faye?
I'd just like to say miigwech, and I hope that this live finds everybody in good health, and pray for everybody's health and well-being, all those suffering, addicted, whatever you're going through. Let's go through it together. Giga Wobbleman, everybody.
Gigawabman, Faye, I'll see you later. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
All right, guys, miigwech for walking with us today. I hope we can help and support each other on this new path, trying to open up for others. But peace, love, 100% respect, and I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe we can touch more on this with a little more time. But miigwech and Gigawabman, see you later.